It's about time. This video is long overdue. I've had the Green Dragon MOC done for months now, but every time I sat down to record this video, I found some detail that I was unhappy with. But with almost 5 months between now and the previous update, I decided I just needed to do it. So here it is, without further ado, the completed Ancient Green Dragon. So the first section I'm going to show off is the head and neck. I went over this in the last video, and honestly nothing has changed. So I'm not going to go too deep into any of the techniques or anything that I used to make it. All of that's covered in the previous one. But just as a general overview, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think I got the cobra snake-like look pretty accurately. And it has a lot more depth and detail than my last dragon did, the black one. Even though that one, I'm happy with that one as well. I feel like this is just a general improvement. Looking at it from the front, I do like that you can actually see the eyes, unlike the last dragon as well, and that I was able to get the white teeth. And just based on how I built the last one, that wasn't possible. So this will be a good change going forward when I eventually build all the other dragons. But not a whole lot to say about the head and neck. I went over it all in the last video, like I said, so I'm going to move on. Moving on to the tail, it's the same situation as the head and neck. I went over this in the last update video. And again, nothing has changed with it. The only thing that I'm not super happy with on the tail really is the connection point of this last section here. It has a tendency to fall off, and it's only held on there by a single stud, which is just not adequate for the connection. But other than that, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and it's most of the length of the dragon, and it really gives it a distinct shape when it's all laid out. It could be a little thicker in some parts, but it fits with the rest of the body. So again, I don't think I would really change anything. And it's also a huge improvement over my tail on the black dragon. That tail was a lot smaller. I think it really only went out to about this far, and it was a lot thinner and less detailed. And this one I think just looks so much better. Moving on to the body, this went through several different design iterations. Mostly due to structural instability reasons, but it's built the same way as the black dragon was, with these snot bricks at the core and then panels kind of placed on the sides. Unlike the last one though, this is done in like rows of panels. You can see, and they're all offset by half a brick, which I think gives it a really nice kind of side profile here. And I also added a hinge joint in the middle, so that way it wasn't completely rigid, since the rest of the dragon is so flexible. I also beefed up the front leg joint from the black dragon, because the black dragon can't actually stand very well on its own due to the immense weight of the neck and the wings and the body all kind of funneling through this front joint. The back joint is much better with these, not entirely sure what they're called, but with these more rigid connections. And this one actually stands up really well because of it. So these studs on top here and these exposed studs on the back are actually used to hold the fabric of the wings in place. And I'll go over that a little bit more when I go over the wing. And these two ball joint connections are used for the actual wings themselves. I might end up changing that in the future, since the wings can't really be positioned all that well. They're really heavy and they kind of fall down. But that's my only complaint about the body. Another interesting note, though, is you can kind of see some variation in all these pieces. Since all of the pieces that I ordered were from Bricklink and a lot of them were used, Lego pieces have a tendency to discolor and yellow over time, especially like the white ones and apparently these lime green ones. And I really like the kind of mottled look it gives with the color. So to some people that might be a detriment, but I'm really happy with how it looks. So moving on to the rear leg. Now, the rear legs were a bit of a challenge for me. I had a hard time getting the general shape that I wanted while keeping all of the flexibility that legs should have. And as a result, we have some exposed joints at the ankle and at the knee, as well as some gaps elsewhere. which is probably something I'll work on in the future. But besides the exposed joints, I'm really happy with how it looks from the side. It's a lot smaller than my last dragon's legs, and it's actually more stable, which is a huge benefit because this dragon's a lot heavier than the last one. The other new thing is the foot. You can see it's actually built on a reverse, on an upside down stud base. And with these, I think they're robot arms technically, with the as the toes with the claws. And it's very, very stable, like I said, and very flexible at the same time. Overall, not my favorite foot that I've ever built, but it works for this, and it's really not the focal point. Now we have the front legs. And I think the front legs are honestly my least favorite part of this dragon, just because I really could not get the shape down. So I was going off of the concept art here. And if you zoom in on the front leg, you see it has this really awkward kind of down over down shape. And that was really hard to recreate for me. Because again, it was a leg and I wanted it to be flexible, but I also needed to get that shape. So this is kind of what I came up with. If you look at the back, there's actually the same attachment point for the knee as the front legs. And as a result of that, it has some kind of odd shaping as well and some exposed gaps. Finally, we have what's probably the most exciting portion of the dragon. We have the wings. So the base is 2 ball joint connectors, another one of these hinge pieces, which you can really only see from the back or the bottom, and you really don't see it from that angle very much. So yeah, it doesn't look the greatest here, but when looking at it from the front, I think it looks really good. And for the black dragon, I had flexible joints at each of these joints, I guess you could say, and they really weren't very strong, and they had a really hard time holding up the fabric of the wing. And since this fabric is actually twice as thick as the black dragon fabric because of the fact that it's white on the side and then green on this side, those joints just weren't going to hold up. So I went with these stiff Technic connectors instead, except for up here, which is just 2 small ball joints because those kind of fingers aren't very big. The fabric is held on with these little pins, and they're also attached to the body through these holes, in which I just stick little pins with the ball connector on top, like you can see right here. And then this part just clicks right into the body where I talked about earlier. I think these look really, really good, and they're probably the biggest improvement overall from how the black dragon is. And I will definitely be using this kind of 2-layered look for all the rest. I did not make this myself. I had some serious help. I'm not a sewer, so shout out to them for helping me out, and they asked to. But yeah, here's the wings. Not a whole lot to talk about on this part either, but super, super happy with how it looks. And I think it's my favorite single part of this whole build, just because of how much it brings everything together and how much it kind of defines what the dragon is. And now, with all these pieces shown off, here's what it looks like all together.